encourage your soul, enlighten your mind, and empower your faith. This is the Light Network. Hello and welcome to Preachers in Training. This is the podcast on which we discuss all things preaching and ministry. Welcome into Season 21, Episode 1, a long-awaited episode where we're going to tackle this new logo stuff that's going on. And of course, that means that Michael Hite is joining us from the Bear Valley Bible Institute in Denver. Welcome back, sir. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Episode 1, I feel special.
Hey, how about that? Okay, so our listeners need to know that we've been trying to get this scheduled for quite some time, and you've been so patient through this process, and I appreciate it very much. So anyway, this is good.
The audience has been patient. I haven't had to be patient. I canceled on you. So
it was just the way it was. Yeah.
I'm glad that we've been able to get this done. I've been receiving a lot of questions. I have a feeling you have as well.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can answer some of those for your listeners today and clear the air a little bit.
Yes. Okay, Logos is it version 10? I mean, where are we right now? Is that even a thing anymore, numbers?
That is not a thing anymore.
Okay.
The last desktop version was Logos 10. There will not be a Logos 11.
Okay.
The desktop is frozen at Logos 10 and will remain at 10 until it dies.
Okay. All right.
So, which will be many years from now. And that's there's maybe one of the first questions is if I decide not to go to a new subscription model, are they going to turn my software off? And the answer to that's no.
That's good. That's good.
What you have right now will function until the technology surpasses the capacity of the software. For example, we cannot still run Word 95. Some are still trying.
Sure.
But the reality is that Word 95 probably won't run on a modern machine. But Word 98 probably still does. So it's a lot of years down the road before your software will stop functioning. But you're not going to get any new features in the desktop version of Logos 10.
Okay. And that's really the big story, and that's what everybody's asking about because they've moved, they've shifted to this subscription model, and so it's not like it used to be. No, pretty much everything's changed. So can you give us a brief overview? We're going to get into feature sets and all that stuff in a bit, but the things that we're interested in, I mean, now it is no longer like you could buy a version 9 library but still get some of the basic features of version 10 if you downloaded the new software. All that's gone now. So can you help us with this?
Yeah, I mean, basically, and the whole software industry changed. The first one I remember, as I mentioned to you before we got on the air, was Adobe. Changed to a subscription model back in June of 2013. And everybody was all up in arms. Well, since then, think of how many software packages we have now that are subscription models. We hate them because we lose track of how many things that we've subscribed to. But the reality is that for software developers, it really does make sense for two primary reasons. One is the barrier to entry is now lower. For example, you can see on your screen right now that premium, which is the lowest subscription, for $10 a month, you can get into Logos. Now you couldn't do that before. You had to spend a couple of $100s. Now you can do free trials, which you couldn't do before, and for $10 a month you can try it out and get into it. One of the big criticisms of Logos over the years has been its cost. And, people are like, I don't want to spend $1,000 for Bible software. And it's like, okay, I get that. Well, now you don't have to. You can spend $20 a month for their max subscription. That gives you the highest level feature set that they have. And you're spending $20 a month and you try it for 3 months. If you don't like it, you turn it off, you're out $60. Whereas before, if you spent $1,000 and you didn't like it, you just had $1,000 boat anchor, installed on your computer and you went back to use an e-sword or something, right? I mean, So, it makes sense from a barrier to entry. I think there are going to be many, many, many more Logos users with this model. The second thing is really all the AI stuff, and we're going to talk more about the AI stuff later on in this episode. But AI, they are actually paying outside services to access large language models and use the AI issues.
Okay.
That costs them money every time you hit an AI search. They have to spend money. The only way they can do that fiscally responsibly is to charge you some ongoing subscription based on how often you use AI. And so they don't really have a way to do a one and done, payment for that.
Okay.
And so those are the biggest issues. And that's what's got everybody all up in arms. We don't want another.
Right. Yeah. So these, I've got it pulled up here. I'm under the what's new section on logos.com. Right. It's easier than ever to find what you're looking for. They're talking about smart search, which is for premium plans and up. Basically, anytime you see the little magic doodad, right? The little glittery star looking things, that's pretty much means that
I've heard them
using AI.
I've heard them call it a sparkle icon.
Okay.
But anytime you see the sparkle icon and you click on it, you're using AI functionality. There's also the summarize tool, which we'll look at in the interface, that accesses AI and some other tools as well.
Okay.
That access AI information.
All right. You can pay in a variety of ways. They let you do the monthly. If you know you're sold on it, you can pay annually. You might get a little bit of a cost break on that. And right now, I mean, we're recording this December 31st, 2024, and they're letting you add an extra year for an additional like 21% off or something. So you can get 2 years. Yeah. So there you go.
If you want to try this, now's the time. They really have made the barrier to entry as low as they can. That will go up sometime in the future. But the other thing that you need to know is that if you subscribe for a year, you'll get what's called legacy licensing. And that is that at the end of 12 months, even the features that you have in the subscription will freeze. And you just keep what you had under your subscription moving forward. I think that's after 12 months. It might be after 2 years. If you might have to go into the 2-year deal to that, but my understanding was it was after 12 months.
Okay.
That your feature set freezes. So it's not try it and then you leave and you have nothing. You still have some functionality beyond that. So.
And if I'm showing my screen right now, but I'm not signed into my account. But if I were to sign into and by the way, I have not done this yet. I've been waiting to talk with you. So full disclosure for our listeners. But if I were to sign in, that cost actually goes down because it's factoring in the libraries and resources that I already had in the old version. Is that how it is?
Not the cost of the subscription. And that's what we need to talk about. Now you really do need to understand the difference between the software and your library.
Okay.
Libraries are forever. The books that you bought or the books that you currently own, if you're a current Logos user, you have a library of books.
Yeah. I like the sound of that.
They don't ever change. That part of your deal with Logos never changes. You bought those books. They're yours. You don't lose them if you go to a subscription, even if their subscription doesn't list those books. All of that gets dumped into the subscription software.
Okay.
The feature set and the software is what's part of the subscription. So when you go to the subscription, you get features, tools. A particular package of tools is the difference between Premium, Pro, and Max. And really, there's very little difference between Pro and Max except for more AI credits. But there's a few things, some very advanced original language things that most people don't need. I think the vast majority of folks are looking at a Pro subscription if they are a preacher.
Got it.
But all of your books go with you. Good. No matter what. You don't ever lose those.
Got it.
And so they will offer you deals to buy more books.
Oh, good.
They,
Okay.
you know, they, and their job is to sell you more stuff,
Mm-hmm,
right? I mean, they are
mm-hmm.
a publishing company, so they want you to buy more books, but you don't have to buy any more books.
Okay.
You can just, if you're happy with your feature set now, you don't even have to go to the subscription. If you
Mm-hmm,
want
mm-hmm.
new tools, you're going to have to move to a subscription.
Got it. So if someone were coming into Logos brand new without having a library before, you can still pay for books. That correct? I mean, you're
Yes,
still paying
yes.
for those books. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the screen that you were sharing, if you go to the next level and say, okay, I want to start a subscription,
Uh-huh.
the next thing it does is say, now choose a library of
Got
books
it.
that you want to add to that
Okay.
subscription.
Got
So
it.
if I'm a brand new user, I've never used Logos before, I'm going to choose a subscription model, premium. I love how their base model is premium. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
Premium Pro, the marketers were running amok with that one, weren't they?
Yeah, don't you know?
Premium Pro and Max. And then the next thing it's going to ask you to do is, do you want to add a library to that? And you can start from starter, that is really inexpensive. I think the starter library starts at $27.99 to buy a bunch of books. And
Okay.
then you can go all the way up to portfolio, which is 3,000.
Oh.
But right now, even their libraries are on massive discounts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For example, the Platinum Library or the Diamond Library is $2,000, but that's $1,000 off their normal price.
Ah, okay.
Um, so you choose a software, a subscription model, then you choose a library. If you
Yeah.
are already a user, you do not have to add another library to your subscription. You just pay for the subscription. All your stuff will dump in, and you're good to go.
Got it. I came in with a Logos 9 library. I forget which level I went to, and I think they've changed those levels since I came in, but it's a whole thing. So
Right.
I have signed in, and now these are the prices that it's quoting me for an annual. So you get 16% off when you go annual, and then 20% off if you were to add an additional year. So let me just go back to monthly. Rather than $9.99 for premium, it has taken me down to $6.90. This is unique to me,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
From
Yep.
$14.99 for Pro down to $9.99, and for Max
Right.
$19.99 down to $12.99. So just to give people an idea, I guess, of what it
Yeah.
might
So,
be.
so for $13 a month, you can jump into the deepest feature package Logos offers,
Mm-hmm.
and you can try it monthly. And if you, at the end of 30 days, don't like it, you're out $13.
Right.
I, that's why they did this, right?
Okay. Yeah.
They're convinced that they're going to capture people during that trial. For 2 months, you spend $26. They're confident that you're going to want to keep the package and continue to use it. There
Yeah.
was no way to do that previously. The cheapest package they had was, I think, $249.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either in for $249 or you're in for nothing. Now you're in for $26.
Yeah, which is
and
not bad.
and can at least play around with it.
Yeah. All right. So now I've signed out, and we're back to
Okay.
the original pricing, and I'm going to click Pro Start Free Trial, and as you said, it's saying, okay, save 30% on your first library purchase, and I get all these gold, silver, platinum, and notice it's by year, so it's 2025 gold library. So,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, and Logos has always been infamous for this. It's been an irritation of mine all along,
Uh-huh.
but it is because they're basically an interface to all these publishing companies,
Yeah.
Zondervan, Baker. They don't publish all this material themselves, so their contracts with these publishers constantly change. And
Right.
that means the libraries that they offer constantly change.
Yeah.
So if you bought gold in 2019, it is not the same gold library that you're going to buy today.
I see.
It's just not.
Mm-hmm.
And some would argue it's not going to be as good a gold library that you buy today as it did in 2019.
Mm.
That's probably true also.
Mm-hmm.
What was gold in 2019 is probably platinum or higher now. But
Interesting.
those are all kind of predicated by the contracts with the publishing companies.
Mm-hmm.
and certain tools like BDAG or TDN, Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, or some of those more advanced tools, where are they now in the list? They used
Right.
to be as low as gold. Now I think you have to be in platinum or higher to get them.
Yeah.
So,
Which,
that's just part of the deal.
by the way, when I clicked on this, and if you're doing this for the first time, when I clicked on it, it gave me like there are 3 boxes that are right here in the center based on my screen size, I guess, and I had to scroll to the left to get down to the the smaller amounts.
Yeah.
So maybe something. So if I
Those
were to,
marketing guys are hard at work.
they're doing well. If I were to go like with the 2025 starter library, which is the very smallest one, and I don't even know if that would be the recommended choice, but if I were to do that,
Right.
then what I'm doing is I'm signing up to pay $27.99 plus I'm going to begin a $14.99 monthly subscription. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And that
The $27.99
$28,
is one time, right?
right. And
Okay.
you own those books forever moving forward.
Uh-huh.
That $28 is for, if you think about it, it's for books.
Yes.
And you have bought those books and you own those books forever. Even if you cancel that $14.99 subscription, you still own those books.
Okay. Got it. All right. So that's helpful. I don't know that I fully understood all of that. I kind of thought the resources were bundled in with the subscription costs. So that was.
And there are a few, and that's one of the things that people are complaining about is they look at the subscription and they think it's replacing what they already have, and they have all these books, and they look at the subscription for the Pro model, for example, and it's got 2 Bibles in it. Yeah. And it's like, well, I have 15. What's going to happen to all those Bibles? And it's like you're going to keep them all.
Okay. All right.
But if you are a newbie, and I mean a total newbie, you've never subscribed before, and all you do is pay for the Pro subscription, you're going to get 2 Bibles.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want more, you have to add a library.
Okay. Got it. All right, so that's helpful. So yeah, and that, I guess that's the reason why when it's going through these features on the website, I'm back now. I'm not signed in. I'm just looking down here under the Pro plan. You can dig into Greek and Hebrew. That means it's giving you the capability, not necessarily the resources. I mean, like, how does that work?
Well, it would be the tools. For example, some of the original language tools, and if you click on that little compare slider underneath there, as you scroll down, you can see what features are belong to which subscription package. And there's a lot here to chew through. But if you went down to like original language stuff, and I think there's original languages. If you scroll down, you'll see that you start to lose some features. The Greek and Hebrew Bibles, you only have a couple. Textual criticism stuff, you can see that some of that. So as you get deeper, you get some of the more advanced, like the grammatical analysis stuff. And so if you're heavy in original languages, you're going to want to go to Max. But the reality is the Pro offers all of the features that I use on a regular basis. I have found in the Pro subscription. I really don't. With what I do, I don't need the Max subscription, and I really do think 80 to 90% of most preachers I know, even that are pretty heavy in original languages, aren't going to outwork the Pro subscription.
Okay, right. So
but you don't want to start with premium because it doesn't have some of that stuff.
Okay, it's a little homework to do. That's the way it was with Logos before. Good news is you can start a free trial, and if you want to stick your toe in a little further, you can start a monthly plan and then decide what you want to do from there. So that's the good part of that.
And you can always back out. You can always drop down. Like if you want to just try 30 days for $23 on the Max subscription and you realize that there's a ton of tools you're not using, you can drop it down to the Pro subscription. It's not a problem.
Okay. To your point earlier, you mentioned Adobe. I mean, this is pretty common. All the major players in software are doing this. Long gone are the days when we order the the DVD of Microsoft Office and we install,
Right.
the respective applications. No, you got Office 365. I don't even know what it's called anymore. But we all pay for it and we get it, and it comes with some cloud storage. And this is just the way it works these days, and Logos is sort of joining that club.
Yeah, and the other major reason is because it used to be that software companies were chasing their tail to offer new features that would entice you to buy the new package
Mm-hmm.
when it came out every 2 years or every 18 months or whatever their development cycle was. Now you get new features as they're released. I mean, as long as I'm under
Okay.
a subscription, the minute they come out with a new tool, it gets pushed to my software that day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to wait 18 months to purchase the new Logos 11 to get all the new tools. I get these new tools as I go along.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's some advantages to that in that you get one new tool dribbled out to you at a time instead of 15 new tools that you don't know how to use,
Yeah.
and it becomes overwhelming, right?
That's a good point.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a steep learning curve with Logos anyway, especially if you're new.
there is.
And we were talking before we hit the record button that there are even some changes to the software recently that have required a little bit of reorientation. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm looking at our outline. We had some predetermined questions, and we've sort of organically just blown through the first four. But I do want to kind of circle back and emphasize that for smaller congregations or ministers on tighter budgets, there is some accessibility. That there is some fluctuation for what you're able to do, and that's a good thing.
That is probably the major issue for the subscriptions is
Yeah.
you can get your feet wet very heavily for very small amount of money and see if you like it. If you don't,
Mm-hmm.
you cancel, you move on, and you're out $40 instead of 400.
Yeah. Okay. Um. So they have changed a few things, and what was interesting is I'm running Logos 38.1. Updated December 2024. I do not have the new subscription model. You're running what? Logos 38.12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am on a subscription.
Yes.
I jumped into the subscription right away because I have to. I
Yes.
use this stuff all the time, and people are asking me a bazillion questions, and I need to be able to tell them. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I do want to make it clear to your audience too. I could get into, one of the sponsor programs that they do where if I recommend it, I make money if you buy Logos and all. I intentionally don't do that. I don't want anybody thinking that I'm pushing Logos on them because I make money if they buy a subscription or do whatever.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So there's no benefit to me. I'm just here to help.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get into the subscription right away
Mm-hmm.
just so that I could see how things change. And there are some things that have changed. And one change that got pushed out, I thought, to desktop users as well, is the interface change in the resource panels.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's not completely true, unless they just don't like Robert for some
They
reason.
just don't like. I don't know. I'm still like I got this classic look on my screen. I don't know.
You said something positive about eSword or something at some point, and
I
so they
guess I
just said
did.
no. But if you want to bring up the screen that I'm sharing, most of the users will notice that at the top of the interface, that looks completely different than yours does.
Yes. Yeah.
There's now a whole series of menu items. You have home and search and notes and formatting and view and tools and share and new. And each one of these gives you different tools underneath them. That's very different than it was before. I still think it's good, but I've lost all my muscle memory, and I constantly have to look for, okay, where is the thing I want? I want to join two panels together, and where is that? That was link sets, and here it is under home, and I can set up the link sets under home, but I have to remember that link sets are under home. And if I don't remember that, I'm like, is that a tool? No, it's not a tool. Is that a view? No, it's not a view. And so I'm spending more time clicking than I used to, but I think once we get used to it, it'll be good.
Is all of that what is under? Okay, now this is terrible podcasting, and I'm sorry to my audience. What is under the three dots in the far right corner of that pane now? Oh,
You have,
see, why did they
yeah,
do this?
yeah,
Okay, sorry, it's all changed.
no,
All right, that's good.
every bit of it has changed.
Okay.
And like I said, I've got my list of good, bad, and ugly.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that I really hate is, for example, I was showing you earlier, I want to turn my interlinear on. It's on here,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe I want to turn it off. That used to be just a one simple click. Now I have to go to view. I turn on interlinear. I click the button to turn it off, but
Oh.
and then I have to click out to get the interlinear panel to go away.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like more clicking than there used to be. Um, if I
Yeah.
want to change one of the features here, I can turn more things on.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to. There's more clicking involved.
Yeah.
And if I don't remember where interlinear was, I end up clicking on, is that under formatting or is that a tool? No,
Yeah.
that's a view. I will say that I'm getting used to it, and I do think it's better in the long run. But people need to understand that it's gonna cause some changes.
I wonder.
You're going to be
Yeah.
frustrated.
I wonder if part of this almost doesn't make it a little more accessible for brand new folks. You kind of had to understand the inside baseball logos and
You,
icons that they had
you
before.
did.
Yeah.
You did. And I do think it's much easier for brand new users. For those of us that have muscle memory, we have to retrain our fingers.
Right.
But the logic of where things are is making more and more sense, and I'm finding things faster. It's just I have to retrain myself. I've been using this software for too long.
Right.
So
He didn't give
we
us a
want
number. He just said too long.
yeah, I still have the floppy disks in my office at home, if that gives you any idea.
Okay, that's
And
cool.
it was
Yeah.
it was called Libronics back then. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
so
Now, even though this is a subscription model thing, there's still obviously things to be downloaded. I mean, I'm backing up to very rudimentary stuff right now, but you
yes,
for one thing, you have your whole library that you can, I'm sure, still continue to. Do I want this downloaded, or do I want this in the cloud where I can go and access it whenever I want? That kind of stuff.
yep.
Um,
You basically have mobile version, a web version, and a desktop version.
okay.
And
Do you
so
ever
even
use the
under the
web version?
subscription,
Do you do
I am
anything?
using the web version more actually.
Really?
With the new subscription model, there's more feature parity than there used to be.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the tools that frustrated me that were always missing, visual filters and those kinds of things, are now available on the web version.
Wow.
And to be honest with you, I like using the web version on my iPad because iPads now, especially modern iPads, use a full browser.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get a more full version of Logos on my iPad than the mobile version
Yeah.
of Logos.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm using the web version on my iPad almost exclusively now. I still use the mobile version on my phone,
Mm-hmm.
but I use the web version on my iPad and find a lot more features available than they used to have.
Boy, that's great. So what we're talking about for people, you can pull it up in your web browser, and it basically what it virtually looks like the desktop software, but through your web browser.
It looks identical.
Yeah.
There are some features missing still, but
Okay.
it's much it looks exactly like the desktop version.
Yeah. I know, and we've talked before, you've had custom highlighters and things like that. Does that sort of stuff sync through, or is
Yep.
that's a feature we're missing then in the web?
Nope. It syncs through to the mobile
Really?
version on my phone
Yeah.
and on the iPad. It syncs through to the web version as well. So yeah,
Okay.
all the highlighting and notes
Mm-hmm.
have finally become feature parity on all platforms. So that's a really good thing too.
That's great. Okay, tools, things. I mean, so they've switched to this model. This is a subscription model, and I know that there are several things that they've really been pushing. I mean, you go to their website, and they're really pushing, especially the AI stuff. What features do we need to highlight for people that are kind of exciting as we start thinking about this brand new era of logosdom?
I I think there are two tools in particular that I am very excited about, and I'm finding myself using all the time. They're AI based features, and they're
Oh.
related to search. But here in the search panel, for example, we have the ability now to do a variety of different kinds of searches. We can get into books,
Mm.
and if I want to search my books, you'll notice it now over in the right hand side. We have two different search interfaces. One is called Smart Search, and one is Precise Search.
Oh.
Precise is what you had before.
Mm-hmm.
If you did searches in Logos before of your books, Precise was what you used. But now you have Smart Search, and what Smart Search lets you do is ask natural language questions.
Ah.
So, for example, how did Paul use the term flesh in Romans?
Mm.
Now, that's not a question I could ask in the past,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, I needed a root colon G colon. I mean, there was this whole syntax to the search. But
Yeah.
now, if I do this search, it's going to go through my books, and it's going to give me an answer. It's going to give me a paragraph.
Mm.
And this is what I love about Logos. Okay, I got to say, I'm not a huge AI fan for a lot of things, but I think Logos is doing this right. You'll notice that I did a book search,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives me this summarized AI generated paragraph. But it says Paul uses the term flesh, sarx in Greek. Notice it gave it to me with the English, not in the Greek lettering, so you don't
Yeah.
have to read Greek letters.
Yeah.
In Romans and Samuel, drawing on Old Testament background in Romans 28, and it gives me this answer. But then at the end of each sentence, it shows me the article that it
Okay.
got that information from. So it basically creates a bibliography. That's one of the problems with Chat GPT and other things.
Mm-hmm.
You can do web searches, but it doesn't tell you where it got that information. And that's part of the hallucinations that happen in AI,
Yeah.
is you don't know where it got the information from or not. But this documents the sources for you. And
Mm.
if you want, I can actually click on the resource, and I can see exactly the paragraph that it got that information from. And
Okay.
so
Mm.
I can look at it right here and see and read in a more complete context what that original author said.
Mm-hmm.
So that really gives you a great opportunity to see how things flush out.
It's
Now, there's
interesting that it actually says, okay, this has been AI generated. Check it for accuracy.
Logos has been really good about trying to say AI is not the end all be all of technology, right?
Good.
It can
Yeah.
be wrong. It's here as a guide. It's here as a help.
Mm-hmm.
It's here as a starting point. As a matter of fact, they have a major marketing campaign right now. Nobody wants a robot for a preacher,
Yeah.
and it's kind of their way of saying, don't just use all these AI tools and then step up and preach it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a starting place. It's not the end all be all of Paul's use of the term flesh,
Yeah.
but
Right.
this is a great place to start, right?
And in the same
Um,
way, I mean, so if you had pulled up something similar from one of those specific articles, you would have done the same thing. I mean, I'm not just going to take
sure,
whatever FF Bruce says. I'm gonna fact check it and think
hopefully,
about the argument. Yeah, I should, and all of that stuff. So that's good. A lot of
yeah,
people, and this is a different conversation. And we were talking earlier. We need to have a whole, you know, GPT large language model kind of geeky, but very much appropriate episode of Preachers in Training someday. But
right.
a lot of people don't, a lot of people wonder, where does Chat GPT get its information? And it's using a model, and there are actually different levels of this. And if you pay for Chat GPT, you get a different, a better,
Right.
presumably better model than the free one that everybody else uses. Do you know, I mean, is this a proprietary thing that Logos is using? What's a little bit of the
Yeah.
back end of this?
Yeah. The inside baseball story is the large language model that Logos is using for this particular search is your library, what you own.
Perfect. Yeah.
If you search books at the top, you'll notice that I'm searching at the top and I'm just searching books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm searching my library. Now, I have a pretty extensive library.
Mm-hmm.
I've been using it a long time, so I have a pretty large library. So as long as I'm searching in my books, the only references it's going to give me are references of books I own.
Mm-hmm.
And even the summarizations down here below, the continuing search, are going to give me other articles that are related to this idea, are only from books I own.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to the web and using the LLMs, the large language models of ChatGPT and other things to do this. It's literally just looking at the books you own in your library.
Mm.
Now, if I change this to all, which is what a lot of people do when they first test this, and they click the same search, and I still have a typo, so it understood.
Yeah.
You'll notice now a lot of these resources have a little lock next to them. Do you see this little lock?
Yeah.
What that tells me is that those are resources that I don't own.
Okay.
Now, this large language model are all of the books that Logos has available to purchase. Okay. So I expanded my model, I expanded my base of knowledge to a bigger library, but I may not own these books. And so if I want to dig deeper in these articles, as soon as I click on it, it's going to say, you don't own it. Would you like to buy it for $18.04? And everybody's like, see, they're trying to sell you books.
Yeah.
Of course they are.
Right.
That's what they do for a living, right?
Yes.
So that's the difference with these smart searches. If you search all, you're searching their entire library of available resources.
Mm-hmm.
If you search books, you're searching just your library of resources. Now, the bigger your library, the more elaborate those results will be. If you buy the cheapest subscription and the starter set, you're probably not going to have a lot of depth in that response because you don't have the resources to look at. Another argument for why you want to build a larger digital library. But that's the difference.
You know, for years we've been typing in Google searches and we've done it in somewhat of a common vernacular. And it's worked, maybe because Google had some kind of mojo going on in the background, but also because, you know, the internet, someone had used those key words. That used to be all the rage, right, in internetdom, keywords, and they could string those together and blah, blah, blah. But when you narrow the library, even to Logos's full library, or especially to the library within Logos that you own. To your point, without the smart search, you needed to be a little more judicious in the way you worded that search. Now, AI is able to distill your search along with the content in your library and blend those together in a smart way, which is a great thing, right? I mean, on its face.
It is. I mean, the way searches used to work was if I wanted to see every place that Paul referenced the word flesh, that's very different than finding articles about how he used the word flesh, right? And that's where the smart comes in. I struggle with using smart as a term for AI in general because we attribute intelligence to these things when in reality they're not really intelligent.
Right.
But it is a very different kind of natural language search that it understands and can give us good information.
That's great.
I know this is really bad podcasting, but the sun's coming in through my window, so I'm going to close my blinds real quick.
By all means, please do. I love this. I love these smart searches, and you can do a smart search within any of those searches. So I'm seeing all Bible, fact book, morph, blah blah blah. I assume you have a smart search option in each of those.
No. Which is another thing that I really, really like.
Oh, good. Okay.
You do not have a smart search in Bible.
Within your Bible.
because in your Bible you're looking for concordance kinds of ideas. You're not asking conceptual questions.
Good point.
That's where commentaries and encyclopedias are going to give you interpretive questions. How was Paul using the word flesh? Well, that's a human somewhere that had to write about that. And so you can't just go to your Bible and say, interpret the Bible for me, and ask your Bible a smart search. It's not going to do it.
That's good.
And that didn't help at all, did it?
No, it didn't help you.
So I just moved offices, and
that looks better.
Okay.
So that's good. I
that's
like
better.
Yeah, much
no
better.
Stripes across my chin.
That's
okay.
right. You don't have that jailhouse look anymore.
Yeah.
I like that it's not forcing AI on, and it just shows you, like you said, Logos is those people, they're trying to be intentional about how they're incorporating this.
They are. I have to say, overall, with the exception of two tools that I really don't like that they put AI in, I think they've done AI very smart, and I think they've done it well.
Okay.
Good. And it's not in every area of your life, which you'll notice that the Factbook search does not have an AI component. Obviously, morphological searches do not, and that kind of stuff. So it's really when you're searching your books and your library that you have more AI opportunities.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that I wanted to show related to this real quick, I'm going to do a book search, so it's limited to mine. And I'm just going to do this same search. I have this article. If I open this article, and I'm not sure, okay, it did do it. One of the problems when you do searches, and it happens in Google, it happens theologically when we look at all the commentaries that we have, or all of the books that we have, and all these articles. Do I have to read all of these articles to know if they are relevant to the kind of information that I'm looking for? And one of the things that Logos has done is they've added, and I have to find it, the tool under the tools menu. They have a summarize feature. Now this is AI, but for example, it pulled up, I scrolled, so I'm looking at Romans 7:24 on capital punishment. It can give me a summary of this article. Now this is a very small little article, but it can give me a summary of the article I'm looking at to see if that's valuable to me or not. Now, it's not going to replace the information in the article, but you know how it is. Sometimes you're looking for a particular aspect of a topic, or a particular, concept that you're looking for. This summarize feature is AI, but it's looking specifically at that article, and it's going to summarize that article for you to say, is this worth reading this entire article based on what you're looking for? And I love that, because we've all been in the past. I mean, it's kind of like doing a Google search and you get 1,500 hits. How do you know which ones are valuable to what you really wanted or not? Well, if they're on the first page, they're valuable. If they're on page 15, they're not. That's not necessarily true. And in this case, you can turn on this summarization feature. You can leave it on. And then as you move through these articles, you can get this little one paragraph summary of the article that says, is this worth reading or not? This is what this article is about. If that hits your bat, if that hits what you're looking for, read the rest of the article and you'll find that information.
Wow. What a time.
So I think that's a really smart, I think that's a very smart use of generative AI. Now, I wouldn't cite the summarization as a source, right? But it does tell me, is this article worth my time or not?
Yeah. And then if you determine it is, you go in and read the article. You don't just rely on the summary. Yeah. Some of this is AI Ethics 101, which is why we need that episode we were talking about.
Yeah. Anyway. You'll notice that even in this book search, I have, now that I turned summarize on, now I can say, summarize this particular article, summarize this for me.
Okay.
and it's Harper's Dictionary. And here I'm going to get an AI generated, and it's very clear. It tells me this is an AI generated summary,
Mm-hmm.
but here's a summary of the article in Harper's Dictionary about Romans.
Yeah.
Does this head in the direction that I need it to head? If it's not, I dismiss it and move on and go to the next article, and look down here, and I can summarize that one
Mm.
and get a paragraph that tells me what this article is about. And if it's giving me information that was really on the track that I was looking for, all I have to do is click on the title. It's going to open that full article, and I can now distill it and summarize it in my own mind and
Yeah.
go through it in my own way.
Let me ask
But
you this:
talk about a time saver.
Oh, absolutely. If people are watching the video, they're noticing that when you click on these articles, there have been a line or two on almost each one that is highlighted. Is that from study you've done before, or is that Logos highlighting for you the relevant material?
That should be the relevant material from this summarized paragraph.
Oh, okay. From the summary at the top. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, interesting. All right.
So I think Smart Search and Summarize are two of the best features that Logos added.
Mm-hmm.
They they save so much time. And I think it's a smart use of AI. It's not going out to the web. It's not using a large language model at Google or ChatGPT or somewhere out in the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking at your books. It's like asking your librarian, and I've always used that analogy. It's like asking your librarian, read every article that I have that mentions flesh in Romans on my wall.
Yeah.
And then give me a paragraph with a bibliography that shows me which ones I might want to look at more closely.
Yeah. Mm.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as I don't just take my librarian summary and preach it as gospel truth.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to do the work of double checking. Did they summarize it correctly? Did they quote that author? Did they interpret that author correctly?
Yeah.
Let me go back to these sources and dig a little deeper.
And this really helps too if you do invest in a larger Logos library. It helps to ensure that you're actually going to use it. You're not just defaulting to the sugar stick authors or commentary series that you really like.
Well, and that's even part of the deal is I can't force which authors it does use and what books it does use. There are times where I want a particular author in the summarization and it's not there.
Yes.
So that's kind of the downside of that. But that does keep it honest as far as looking at a broader selection of material rather than just your favorite. If you're just going to read your favorite author, keep those books on your desk and turn off Logos and just quote, the one guy. I mean, and we kind of do that sometimes, especially in the Brotherhood. We have a couple of our favorites and we go to those guys all the time. We'll still do that, but compare that with this broader corpus of material.
Yeah, that's fantastic. A big help. I wonder how they determine, or how the AI determines which, like you've got 3 articles that have been cited there in that summary of your search. I wonder why those 3 were chosen.
And there is the pixie dust of AI, right? Okay. I mean, and if I did this, one of the things that I've done before is I've cleared this synopsis. So I'll just clear this out and I'll run the same question again. Do I get the exact same synopsis?
Oh.
And the answer is most of the time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't give me a different list of books and a whole different idea, right? So that is the magic of AI, is that it does read these resources and coalesce them into a summary that is pretty accurate, and gives you a great starting spot and says these are some critical books that you really need to look at.
Yeah. You mentioned that it's not sending this search off to Google or ChatGPT or anything like that, but I would assume you need an internet connection to be able to utilize that. Yeah. Which, I
Yeah.
mean, we rarely are without data or internet in some form, but there are moments.
There are times when I'm on a mission trip that
Yeah.
I'm not going to have access to the AI tools,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
for the most part, um, we have access all the time now.
Yeah. Easy. Okay. You were there other resources or aspects of this that you're excited about, or do you want to get into talking about the ones that you're not thrilled about AI being a part of?
It depends on if you want me to rant about the ones I don't like. I think Smart Search and Synopsis
Yeah.
uh, and the Summarize are the three best AI features to date.
It's
I
fantastic.
like the way they've leveraged it. I like that I can search the broader library, even books I don't own, and it might point me to some books that I should buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
To add to my library. So it's a great way to grow your library.
Yeah.
Um, where I have heartburn and where I have concerns is always about the abuse of tools. And I do not believe that we've launched Skynet and the human beings are about to be obliterated. But I do know, and I don't know. I'll get hate mail for this. Um, if a preacher is lazy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not trying to denigrate preachers. I love preachers. I train them all the time. If you want to do it lazy and you find tools or download sermon outlines from the internet to preach from,
Right.
if you're one of those kinds of guys, there are some tools and logos that are going to propagate that in bad ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is the sermon. It's called the Sermon Builder, and I don't build my sermons in AI, or
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, in logos.
Logos.
It forces me to it forces me to build sermons in a way that I don't build sermons.
Yeah.
I don't know if you create sermons in logos.
No, I don't. For the same reason, it's not the
Yeah,
way I work. Yeah.
no, it forces you to do it a very particular way, which is a way that I don't do it. So I don't use it. But when you launch the Sermon Builder now, there's an assistant. It's called the Sermon Builder Assistant.
Mm.
And if you click on it now, you can say, give me a sermon outline on Matthew 28:18 to 20. And I'm going to say generate. Oh, what did I do? Matthew 28. 18 to 20, the Great Commission, and I say generate,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to give me a sermon outline.
Whoa. Hmm.
Um, that's not good to me.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
No.
Here is a sermon outline that is a summary. It's the application, the teaching section, how this passage could point to Christ. Here's your main points: meeting Jesus from doubt to devotion. Second, declaring dominant. I mean, it gives you a sermon outline.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want, I can just say insert it into the sermon builder, and
Oh
I have
wow.
a sermon.
Look at that. And now it's
I
building
don't like.
slides for you too.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like that.
No.
I'll be honest with you. I just created this entire sermon without reading a single word.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love preachers and have faith in preachers, I'm terrified that someone out there is going to do this
Mm-hmm.
and just then go out and preach this because it's Saturday night and they're not ready and they need a sermon last second. And so let's just have AI do it.
Right.
You can generate illustrations. You can generate questions. You can generate applications from the text.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
AI can't do that for you. It can make some suggestions. I think they're good suggestions. Um, but the fact that you can, you know, build this out, it's interesting. You can even change it for your audience. If you're
Oh.
preaching to teens or children, it's going to change the language. If I turn off adults, I go back to my outline and turn off adults and say just children.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's going to change the language. It's going to make it simpler. It's going to,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm.
Go tell the adventure of sharing Jesus, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It wrote it for a younger audience.
Mm-hmm.
Go with authority, go make disciples. And somebody may say, hey, that looks really good. Go gather and worship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, here, I'll just preach that.
Yeah.
Please don't.
No.
Please don't. So this tool gives me heartburn. And I really wish they hadn't added it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that is I'm concerned about, if you start in the dashboard, they've added this new tile, and this new tile is what do you want? And by the way, home is now called the dashboard.
Okay.
What used to be home is now called the dashboard. I'm going to do a group Bible study. I'm teaching Wednesday night Bible class. I'm going to do a group Bible study. My passage is Matthew 28:18-20. Great Commission again. I'm going to say generate some questions for a group Bible study on Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
It uses some resources, but the first one is the Great Commission. Who went to Galilee and when? Well, that's verse 16. I asked for 18-20.
Mm-hmm.
What responses did Jesus appearance elect from verse 17? There's some that are from 18-20, but some that are background earlier,
Yeah.
right? If I look at this second set of discussion questions down here, why do accounts of the events of the resurrection differ so greatly between the four Gospels?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I want to discuss with a group talking about the Great Commission.
Yeah.
Right. That question doesn't fit 18-20.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a great question for some other time, but
right.
Why did God move the boulder when Jesus was already gone? Well, 18-20 is not about the resurrection specifically. So why are we back deeper in?
Yeah.
Are you following?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now at the bottom of this, there is one that is the AI version, and it's just generate questions. And this is the AI tool that generates study questions for you. So what one memorable experience you've had that relates to taking a journey or a mission? These are just starting to get people talking, right?
Yeah.
Well, at least it's relevant to the passage, or at least you could make it relevant to the passage.
Mm-hmm.
What's this one here at the bottom? What steps can we take as a community to support each other in fulfilling the mandate given in this passage? All right, now we're getting into some good ones, but it didn't show you those questions first and foremost.
Right.
And if it just opened with these first ones, these are not good questions.
Is it taking those from a specific resource? The First Christian Primer or whatever?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes. There's a resource called the First Christian Primer or Primer on Matthew. And it's listing all of those first. Well, I don't think those are good questions.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling. I almost wish the AI generated questions were the first ones that it gave you, because in many cases the AI got it better than some of these resources did. So you got to spit out the bones, especially in Sermon Builder and Sermon Assistant, and especially in these Bible Study Builder. This is called the Bible Study Builder. They're too automated. If you're running behind and you get home and you've got to do Wednesday night class and you're just a regular member of the congregation and you launch this and you print out these 15 questions, it's not going to be a good class. You haven't done your work.
Right.
So I would rather they had left these out. Now, what you can do is, if there are questions you like, you just click on them and it adds your list of questions, and you can slowly build this study. You can drag these around in whatever order you want. You can add your own notes to it, and then you have a study discussion leader kind of thing. But I'm afraid people are not going to be discerning about the questions.
Right. For the most part, I'm going to make an unfair blanket statement, but some of those template-y kind of features and logos just really aren't my favorite. I don't really tend to use them. To me, that's
Nope,
not where it
neither.
really shines. But
Nope,
yeah,
nope. I mean, I think Logos's best features are those that give you access to the biblical text,
yeah,
the original languages, um, and even commentaries and those kinds of things, and how
yes,
you analyze the passages rather than here put this together this particular way.
right, right.
That doesn't always fit the way I was trained to do it or the way I do it, and so I
Yeah.
don't use those tools.
Well, and
So there's
the
some
human
good and there's
element
some
is
bad.
important. Yeah, the human
Yeah,
element is important, right? I mean, you just
absolutely.
can't substitute for that. It's preach the word
These,
with, and then he gives you some human emotions like long suffering, patience, teaching. There's some stuff you need to add your heart through there too, as it's filtered through Christ's heart. So I think
yeah.
that's kind of important.
I heard somebody recently say that AI, you should always treat AI as an ignorant apprentice.
Okay. Yes. Uh-huh.
And I kind of like that.
Yeah.
You ask them to do the grunt work of find every book on my wall that has an article about Paul using the word flesh. And then tell me what you think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to take your word for it because you're an ignorant apprentice. I mean, you're pretty new at this.
Yeah.
So, but hand me those books and let me at least, take it from there.
Yeah.
And I think as long as we're willing to check the AI and use it as a launching point, I think it can be a tremendous help and a tremendous assistant.
Mm-hmm.
If we start using it to do our work for us, um, we probably shouldn't be doing the work.
Yeah. It's a good
Straight
point.
up.
Well, and same thing. I mean, how did it, for those of you who are old enough to remember sermon outline books, or maybe you have some, how did you use those?
Right.
So kind of the same thing applies there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Well, we do not, I'm the same way. I don't benefit at all by doing podcasts about logos. I just really like the software. In my opinion, it's the best out there. I've tried several over the years.
Me
I've
too.
landed here. I really like it. And I love the forward thinking nature of the feature sets. And Logos seems to be quicker to adopt some of those features than others of the main players, maybe put it that
They
way,
do.
that are
I
out
agree.
there, which I
I agree.
absolutely love. So if you're listening to this or watching this and you're thinking, hey, I like this too, check them out, logos.com. You can find more information there. You can do the research that you need to do to find whatever you think you need and go from there. It sounds like, I mean, what you would recommend taking the plunge, right? I mean, to your
I
point,
would.
you can continue to use the software as it was prior to the subscription model, but that has a timer on it now. And it may be
It
years,
does.
but still it's got a
Right.
timer. Yeah.
And you won't have access to these new AI tools. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have smart search in Logos 10, and you never will.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're waiting for them to add it, it's never going to come. Now, if that's not a tool that you have any interest in using, fine.
Sure.
I have friends that still use Photoshop 6 or something. That's great. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
you don't have to use new tools. That's okay.
Right.
But if you're interested in the development of new tools that will help you go deeper, help you, maybe save more time, help you surface ideas and resources that you probably wouldn't have surfaced on your own, then
Mm-hmm.
I think you should jump in. If you're a newbie and have never used Logos, I think now is absolutely the time to get into the tool. It's the most affordable way of jumping in and saying, what's all the hype about? Is this tool really, as good as everybody says it is? And for a relatively small amount of money, you can get a 30-day free trial.
Yeah.
You can use it for a month and it's not going to cost you anything. Now, the only downside of that is that the subscription packages themselves come with very small Logos libraries,
Yeah.
very small. So it's not quite a fair comparison. One of the reasons why my search for how did Paul use the term flesh is effective is because I have 3,000 or 4,000 resources in my library, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I had 2 books in my library, it might not give me much.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, see, I don't think this is valuable. the bigger your library, the better your results are going to be. But you can at least get your feet wet and find out if the interface works. And some of the other text analyzation tools are still there. You can still connect with the original languages in ways that are difficult to do in print resources.
That's a good point. And you don't have to buy a book or whatever to make that possible, which is great in Logos.
No. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's so much more that could be said, but I appreciate it so much for what you have said, and you've helped me, I know, to better understand what these changes mean and what some of the incentives are to take the plunge. So I appreciate your time as always and your generosity.
I love talking about it. I hope it's helpful to folks. I would probably, my final thought would be, if you're going to subscribe, start at the pro level. I don't think many people need max. Just jump in at pro. And I think it's going to give you all the tools that you need, and give it a shot.
Good. You can learn more about the work that Michael Hite and others are doing at the Bear Valley Bible Institute on their website, wetrainpreachers.com. And that's pretty exciting.
It is exciting.
Appreciate all the stuff you all do over there. And you know, as a part of your teaching, you teach about technology and including Logos resources, right?
I do. I teach a whole course on Logos. We spend 28 classroom hours in the software.
Wow.
And most likely that's going to get expanded to about 36 this year. Because I'm going to do a special class now on research. Just doing research with Logos, and just that aspect of it. So, we spend a lot of time in it.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. All right. You can find out more about us at thelightnetwork.tv. Just search Preachers in Training. You can also find our previous episodes there. And I'm pretty sure like every feature set you've ever highlighted in Logos over the years is still a relevant part of what Logos is today. So if you're wanting to jump in and maybe learn a little more, I mean, there's some power tips that have been shared over the years about Logos. Go to thelightnetwork.tv and type in Logos, or type in Michael Hite. Almost every time he's been on, he's talked about Logos. So
I think that's the only thing you've had me on to talk about. Yeah.
I don't mean to pigeonhole you or anything.
No, that's okay. That's what I do.
Okay. I'm curious now. I'm going to the website and I'm pulling it up. What's new in Logos 10 in October of 2022? It's been longer than I realized.
Wow, yeah, that is a long time ago.
I searched for your name. More Logos tips 2021. 5 features of Logos you must know in 2021. Automating your ministry. Hey, look, there was one that wasn't.
There was one that we did that wasn't Logos.
Okay, so
So I stand corrected.
That's good. All right.
Ministry tech stuff.
Yes,
is fun though.
Yeah.
No, and I didn't mean to say that in a way that was disparaging. I love your audience. I mean, you give me access to an audience that I think likes Logos and has questions, and if I can help that audience to learn more, especially right now, there's a lot of changes with Logos. A lot of people have a lot of questions. I just hope we've helped some folks understand what's happening and how it's happening, and maybe that's going to make their path forward a little clearer.
This is good. And to your point, not to belabor it, but now is probably the best time to jump in, to kind of swim around a little bit. There's some discounts that seem to be going on right now since we're so early in everything that might make it advantageous. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's going to do it for this edition of Preachers in Training. We want to thank you for being a part of our episode today. Audio and video are available online. YouTube.com, search Preachers in Training or The Light Network. Hit subscribe or go to your favorite podcast app. Let's go preach the word.